Hello and welcome to this episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. I'm your host, Mary Czarnecki, and today I am thrilled to introduce you to Caitlin Harris. If you do not know Caitlin, you are going to want to stay tuned because she's got some great insights. If you have been building systems and feeling frustrated or feel like you're doing everything right, but still aren't seeing the breakthrough that you've been wanting. So Caitlin is a business growth strategist. She's also the founder of Momentum with Caitlin and an author of the book Kingdom CEO Shift. So thank you, Caitlin, so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and knowledge with the Sticky Note community.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Now, I know there are definitely going to be people listening and watching who know you, who may have worked with you, who know you well. But for those who are meeting you for the first time, just give us a quick introduction to the type of business you're working on right now and the type of clients that you help.
Yeah, so I started actually with my business, Lighthouse Business Consulting Solutions, and I've shifted that a little bit to Momentum with Caitlin. I came out of a corporate background and moved into just wanting to really be the person that I needed when I was in that operations management role. As a business owner, everybody's so busy and you're in this like reactive mode all the time. And so what I do is I come in, I kind of size up the systems, figure out what's missing and how we can help improve, how we can clear up your messaging and make sure that you're actually reaching the people that you're trying to reach and make your life a little easier in the process.
I love that. I love that. I know I work with big brands and small brands. I feel like they all have that challenge, right? So now I know folks who are listening here, we have a variety of people. We've got founders, we've got business owners, small, large, even had corporate professionals listening probably to our episode here today. But especially with those kinds of businesses that you work with, that business owner that really needs, like you said, to figure out their systems. I'd be curious from your expert perspective, what are the most essential systems, key systems or strategy every business owner really needs to put in place to create that goal for many of us, which is that sustainable momentum, especially without feeling overwhelmed or really burning out?
You know what I find with a lot of the business owners that I work with, they've been in business for a minute and they've grown to this state of they really want to continue to grow and scale, but they're also maxed out because they're doing so many things manually.
Yeah.
And so that's actually one of the first things that I look at is looking kind of what does their customer journey look like from start to finish, beginning of awareness all the way through they've provided their product or service and their offboarding, and what parts of that can we automate? So I use an amazing CRM called Go High Level. I have my own white labeled version that has some other fun things integrated called Lighthouse Software Suite. But what we do in my signature program is we actually customize and build out that complete automated system. Most of my clients, their top concern is, okay, but if I start automating my processes, what happens to that customer service? Like I've built my entire business around really serving my customers well with that high touch personalized service. And they're afraid of automation because that might disrupt that. So that's really what we focus on is making sure that their customers feel like they're right there holding their hand through the entire process, but they're not pulling their hair out on the back end.
Yeah, and that's such an interesting point too, because I hear so many people ask for the automation, but yet they don't want to lose that personalization, that human touch. So where do you see the balance between that? What are the things that help to still make it feel personalized, make it feel genuine, even when you're saving people time, energy, and headache automating some of the system?
Yeah, so really, I feel like it's kind of two components. One is you really want to master their voice, their brand voice. And so that's part of what we do inside of my program is we go through some workshops and we do some things together to really get that pinned down. And I create some I've made called an AI brand blueprint that teaches ChatGPT or whatever their preferred AI tool is exactly how to sound like them. A lot of that has to do with teaching it about the context of their business, the
Mm.
services and products that they have available. So it's a combination of really mastering that voice piece and then looking at the whole customer journey as a whole and seeing like what makes sense for what things could still be manual to still have that really personalized feel and what things could we automate using that strategy with the refined voice to make it all come together.
Do you have any fun stories, just out of curiosity, of someone who's maybe seen the before and after happen between using the work that you do and making ChatGPT or their, like you said, preferred AI sound a little bit more like them versus what it was like before using that?
I do. I actually worked with a client on an AI brand blueprint that they were already using AI. And so they had given me a document of here's some things we put together. And so actually, as a process of talking about the benefit of my AI brand blueprint, I did a comparison. So I pulled out a couple of things from their document, their unique value proposition, and just a couple of things, and ran it through my process and then put them side by side and showed the difference. And they were like, wow, that is so much different, so much more specific and impactful to the client, to the prospect.
I like that, the specificity. Obviously, my specialty, I love talking to people about their stories and storytelling and marketing messaging. And it's funny, like the smallest nuances, the question I usually end up asking is, but is that how they would say it? Or is that how you would say it? And I can see how a small change could make a big difference.
I also just recently had a client that is in my program currently, and she had just begun with our magnetic messaging workshop. And she told me afterwards that just with the things that she learned in that process, that she had closed $3,000 in sale and made an ongoing new client. It works.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Proof. Now, I know that you haven't always done what you've been doing, right? Obviously, you're making a huge impact in people's businesses, but can you tell us a little bit about how this all started for you? What was there a turning point, really shifted from maybe similar strugglers to what your clients are dealing with now to actually thriving, and how that actually shapes how you work with the people today?
Yeah, so I was actually a 911 dispatcher for 10 years and shifted from that to marketing. I got a job in marketing, and that quickly became administrative and operations. And so I was running operations for a cleaning company and really had poured my heart and soul into that company. I loved it. I loved the people that I worked with. And then one day I got called into the office and they said, unfortunately, we're going to have to let you go. And that was the moment when I walked in the room and I saw the HR guy sitting there, and I was like, what's happening? Has there ever been a complaint about my performance? Like, I've given my heart and soul. Like, even when I was home, I still wasn't really home because I had people, we had cleaners in buildings at night. So I'd work all day and then I still had people pinging me at night. And so that was when really the kick in the pants that I never knew I needed to quit hustling so hard and running myself into the ground for somebody else's dream and really start going after my own. So it gave me a second to take a step back and ask myself, like, what do I want to do when I grow up? What do I want life to look like and life with my family to look like, and have that freedom and flexibility to be more available to my family? And so as I started thinking about it, I actually had a phrase that a number of people had repeated to me over the years in different contexts of everybody needs a Caitlin, and kind of echoing in my brain. And I was like, how did I meet a Caitlin when I was in that last role? Because again, I was so in reactive mode all day long with all of the different things that were happening. I had ideas constantly of ways that we could improve, systems we could implement, but I never had time to do it because I was in that constant just trying to stay, keep the ship afloat. So that's when I really zeroed in on that is my zone of genius. It's coming into that chaotic situation and be able to quickly size it up and figure out ways that we can bring order. So that was the beginning of how I got into doing what I'm doing now.
I love that. And I love keeping that mantra in mind as you've been growing, right? Your business is, what would Caitlin do? No, that's fantastic. In that transition, obviously, just to go back for a second, because I don't know if anyone else is like as curious as I am when you're like, yeah, I was 911 dispatcher. That's a pretty intense job. Did you see any transferable skills, or was there anything that you learned how to do, the skills that you developed as a dispatcher that you've now been able to fall back on, or that have been useful in building your own business?
Yeah, it seems like it would be so totally separate. But I think if I was going to pin it down to one thing specifically, I mastered multitasking because you had to do, everybody thinks about 911 dispatch being oh no, you must get these terrible, and we did. But really where the most stress came from was that you've got police officers and firefighters and everybody's on the radio and they're all in potentially life-threatening situations and they all need you right now.
Yeah.
And so that really served me in that operations management role. And then also in what I'm doing now, because I'm able to multitask and juggle a lot of things at the same time and still be able to deliver results.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine your clients are grateful to have that kind of clarity that you can bring when something feels overwhelming. You're able to be like, okay, let's just take a beat. Prioritize here. Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. All right. So I know that we have small business owners, entrepreneurs, founders listening who may be feeling a bit frustrated, right? They're feeling like, I've been checking all the boxes, I've been doing all the shoulds, I feel like I've been doing everything right. but it's just not working. Like I'm not getting the traction, I'm not getting the momentum, I'm not getting the breakthrough. Why am I doing everything right? And yet something's still not working. What do you do when someone comes to you with that problem?
It's something that I have been learning even in my own business over this past year that I've been doing this, and really even over the past few months. I had a kind of a shift in my own perspective of you can have all of the tools and you can have the support, but until you really start showing up as a CEO of your business instead of working just in your business, that's really what makes the difference and moves the needle. And so I have a lot of conversations with my client around that and how can we better, what ways are we standing in our own way that we don't even realize because we've been stuck in that survival mode for so long
Yeah.
as a business owner and even as a human. Sometimes we get stuck in survival mode. And that was really what flipped the switch for me personally when I shifted that identity rather than I'm a survivor because of all these different things that I've been through in life. But no, I'm actually a CEO. And what does that look like? Stewarding what I've created, this business I've created, and what I've been given.
Now, I know that you dig into that a little bit in the book and not revealing everything in the book because obviously everyone should go out and buy it. But when you get into some of those issues, the things that we're holding ourselves back from, is there anything that you share in the book that you could just give us a little bit of an insight to here, a little tip from that?
Yeah, so the book is really based, it's a devotional because faith is at the center of who I am and everything that I do. And so it's really focused on my journey through that, the process of recognizing that survivor mode and shifting out of burnout into really showing up as the kingdom CEO, in my case, of my business. So you asked me for a tip from the book. So one
Yeah.
of the things that has been most impactful for me is I have an entry called Rest is a Strategy and Rest is a Weapon. And looking at that, I feel as moms and as entrepreneurs, as business owners, sometimes we look at rest as something that we have to earn. Okay, but if I can just do all of these things in front of me, then I can rest, then I can reward myself. But looking at rest as instead of pushing through, I've learned that trying to hustle through the stress and the exhaustion is actually a trauma response. It's not a healthy way to process things. And so shifting from that hustle mode into, no, I'm going to honor what my body is telling me. I need some rest. My brain needs some rest. And when I use that as a strategy, then I can come back so much stronger and I make so much more of an impact in my business.
That definitely resonates with me. Because there are days, right, where I'm balancing delivery, right, running a workshop with then content creation or God forbid, returning emails. If you emailed me recently, you probably understand. But exactly, it's this temptation to push through. And it's funny, like different seasons of life. My 20-year-old self would probably never have said, you mean a nap is what you're rewarding yourself with? But it's true, right? We get to these points where, oh, actually, a nap sounds like a pretty nice treat.
Yes, and I have also been really exploring the difference of what it looks like for me between rest and recharge because sometimes they're not the same thing. There's rest, there's napping and there's those things, but then there's those specific activities whether that's, going for a walk, getting out in nature or for me like self-care, taking care of myself, whatever that looks like. And having really the combination of resting and recharging is what makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are folks listening or watching this that haven't actually taken the time recently. I would challenge you guys listening. Have you actually taken the time recently to figure out what recharges you? So that's a really good distinction. I appreciate that, Caitlin. Thank you. I always ask folks a couple of interesting, more personal questions if you're open to it, a couple of my
Yeah.
guest experts. Obviously, you mentioned the fact that as business owners, entrepreneurs, parents, we're balancing a lot of different things. And sometimes we can lose that passion for what we're doing if we don't stay inspired, if we don't stay charged, reinvigorated. So, what are those things for you? How do you stay inspired? Where do you go to find inspiration and to keep that light on?
Mhm. I find that revisiting my why and remembering why I'm doing what I'm doing, having conversations like this where I'm able to share that with other people and it's not just me sitting, working from home, doing everything, like no one's seeing me, nothing's happening. So just really focusing on that. And then again, my faith is a big part of that to keep me energized and keep me focused.
Amazing. Awesome. Now, I know obviously wherever people are joining us from today, we'll have your links and your bio, but what would you say is the best way to follow up with you? If you said something that sparked a question or really inspired someone to follow up, what is the best way to get in touch with you today?
Yeah, my website, momentumwithcaitlin.com, is a great way to get in touch if you have more questions about the systems and automations. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, the Caitlin Harris.
Fantastic. And wherever you're watching or joining us from, we'll definitely include all of Caitlin's links. So be sure to follow up, be sure to grab her book while you can. And thank you so much, Caitlin. Any parting thoughts, any final gems of wisdom that you want to share with the community?
Ooh, parting thoughts. I'm just so excited. My book launched on May the 13th, and I'm just so excited to see the impact that is going to have. It's radically changed my own life and the way that I show up in my business and in serving my family is yeah, if you get a chance to grab a copy, I'd love to hear what you think about it.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. Ask questions in the comments or wherever you're joining us from. Please feel free to reach out to Caitlin and follow up on that book. So thank you, Caitlin. Appreciate you being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Fantastic. And for those of you guys watching and listening, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. We'll see you on the next episode.